Welcome to Chris Wilson, who is here from CIRA, all the way from sunny Brampton, Ontario this afternoon. So Chris, I don't know a ton about you, so I'm going to leave it up to you to introduce yourself, but I will let you know that Chris is president of CIRA Ontario, which is a registered charity whose mission is to encourage, promote, and develop active living, healthy lifestyles, and personal growth through intramurals and recreational programs. I understand you're one of the co-writers of the TGFU resource, which is something that we've been using for some time here in the district and have a well-developed EPD site around, and I know has been just incredible for encouraging physical literacy in the district. So a big welcome to you, Chris. We're looking forward to hearing from you, and I know teachers have lots of questions, so we look forward to getting those to you as well. So I'll pass it on over to you.
Thanks a lot, Kirk. As Kirk mentioned, my name is Chris Wilson, and I am the current president of CIRA Ontario. I'm also a course director for a program here in Ontario called the Ontario Education Leadership Center. I was a phys ed teacher for 31 years at the K-8 level, retired right before the pandemic, and now I just work on these other things. I have written and published approximately 12 resources for CIRA Ontario, OFIA, which is the comparable program to HPEC out there, as well as the Terry Fox Foundation. Any of you use that current classroom material? I was one of the writers on that program as well. And I guess the biggest one for me is in 2019, I was the PHE Canada Phys Ed Teacher of the Year, which was kind of nice. But I'm here to talk about the TGFU series from CIRA Ontario that is currently being shipped out to the great province of Alberta now, and will hopefully reach there relatively quickly. No, it's not in your hands yet, but I understand once it gets there, it'll be delivered to the St. Paul area, and then from there, it'll get distributed out to your schools as quickly as possible. So any of the questions about when you're actually going to get it, good question. It's going to be, whenever it happens.
Yeah, thanks for heading that one off, Chris. We have ordered it. It's in process. We're not sure just yet. The goal is to have everything in place by the end of September, but fingers crossed it'll all go smoothly. So,
right. So what is the TGFU series? So, and why did we write it? CIRA Ontario has been writing resources for about 25 years, and we decided a number of years back to delve into the world of TGFU, which for those who don't know is Teaching Games for Understanding. And the whole concept of Teaching Games for Understanding is taking any of the activities that you'd normally use in a physical education setting and doing it for purpose. Instead of just playing it to have fun or because it's something that you can teach easily. It's now taking an activity and saying, okay, why am I going to teach this? I want my students to learn something out of it. I want them to understand something instead of just playing an activity. So the whole concept of TGFU has actually been around for a number of years, was originally developed over in the UK, and then a professor in BC kind of made it popular about 10 to 15 years ago, and has kind of delved into the major concepts of it. So the major concepts, as I said, are teaching for a purpose. The second one is that it's then breaking down your parent games and turning it into smaller games that allow you to teach the skills, concepts, strategies, tactics that you would need for any parent game. By parent game, I mean things like basketball, volleyball, soccer, football, any of those kind of, bigger games. The TGFU then, takes those minor things and says, okay, how can we turn this into a usable skill or strategy that we can use for something else? So in terms of our TGFU series, I'm going to share my window in just a second here so that you can have a look at what's coming your way, and you can just let me know if you're actually seeing this. Hopefully you are.
Yeah,
so,
we can see it, Chris.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to go here to one of the first ones, which is TGFU Invasion and Territory Games. This is one of the resources that I was on the writing team for. It's one of the first concepts. So this entire book deals with those games where you are trying to invade another person's territory. And I'm sure you can think of all kinds of games like that. These simple games like soccer, you're trying to get into another territory. So these particular games are going to be breaking that down. We also have another one called Net and Wall Games. This one was written by John Bile and Janice Kawamoto. John Bile was our former president, so if you've been around the BizEd world, you may know him as well. So net and wall, obviously you can see how a net is involved in these things. So, the parent games, you're looking at things like volleyball, badminton, tennis. Wall games, you're then looking at things like squash, those areas. And again, it breaks it down into simpler activities that you can use. The other two that fall into the category of pretty much any age group, the next one is bats and balls, which is your striking and fielding games. Here you can see the 3 authors on that one. And that's anything, the 2 most common bat and ball games would obviously be baseball and the variations of baseball, softball, slow pitch, all of those different activities. And then the more and more popular in Canada, the game of cricket. So that's 3 of them. The 4th one.
Right, because you were just in there. You know what? Remember what I said? It's not like you're in
I think somebody's talking in the background, so maybe Kurt can get into mute. The next one is target games, and in target games, it's where you are actually trying to put something in a target rather than invade a territory. So things like hockey and basketball, you're actually putting the ball in a specific area. So those 4 resources, invasion territory, net and wall, balls and bat, and a target, can be used at almost any level. Then we've got 2 that are very specific to what we call foundational games, FUN. Now these are geared to the primary division, your grades 1, 2, 3. And in this one, you're looking specifically at those manipulative skills where you are trying to manipulate an object either with your hands or your feet. Sometimes manipulating that object with another object. So for example, a stick with a puck or something. Those are all those manipulative skills that you would need to learn. And again, we're into the games. The other foundational one, again, for the primary grades is balance, stability, and locomotor skills. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Balance is being able to not fall over, stability, and then locomotor skills, all of those different ways to move within that area. So as I said, we started these resources simply because of the popularity of the TGFU movement and our desire to have something that was easier to use than what we typically see out there. A lot of times, if you look at resources, they're very difficult to get through and understand and apply. So TGFU had become very popular, and we wanted to, give people something that they could actually use quite easily. A couple other concepts that fall into there that are key in phys ed right now. The other one is physical literacy. Obviously, when you're dealing with understanding of a skill or concept in a game, you're very much increasing their literacy of their physical ability. So, physical literacy, which is the other buzzword, is certainly used within the TGFU series. And then, of course, fundamental movement skills. Specifically, two of our books are dealing specifically with that. So that's kind of the resource that's coming to you. Those 6 resources will be in every school. And, each resource has hundreds of games. So you're looking at, 600 activities that are coming your way that are available for you to use. So key features, why is this particular group of resources so good? And I think it's kind of the setup. When you look at this one, I'm just going to go through all of the, the preface as to why we're doing this, the different types of offense and defensive skills that you might be using in an invasion territory, and then just through some things. I'm going to jump all the way down to an actual activity that you would find within the book. And apparently it's taken a few minutes to load. There we go. So when you get into this, all of our resources are written by teachers for teachers, meaning the people that created these resources, including myself, are people that were in the classroom or are currently in the classroom and want something that's going to be usable quite easily by other teachers. So here's the setup of pretty much all 6 of the resources. It starts with a game objective. So, you look at the title, most of them will have a picture there that will kind of help you get some understanding of what the game might look like. The objective is in there. So in this case, in this game called Newbie, to eliminate the other team by tagging players who have been on the court longer. Then it looks at a couple of things in terms of the understanding. What skills and concepts are you going to be using within this activity? So in this case, the game of Newbie, you're looking at dodging, changing directions, changing your speed, anticipating what other people are doing. You're learning about agility, spatial awareness, and footwork within the game. And then you're looking at the strategies and tactics that you might use. And in this particular resource, we talk about offensive and defensive strategies because it's invasion territory. So as an offense, you're trying to learn how to avoid the defense and create space away from the defense. And then in defense, you're trying to defend your own space, cover the area, and predict what the offense is trying to do. Then just gives you a quick, equipment and setup. What's the game going to need in terms of materials? How do you set the game up? And again, if needed, there's a quick little diagram and some quick, easy to understand setup instructions. Then it goes into the actual instructions of the game. How do you play the game? And what we like about our resources is, again, it's very easy to use. Very simply, when the whistle blows, players move to a neutral zone and attempt to tag players from the other team. So it goes through very quickly and easily for that to be able to use. Then it gets into what we call the questions for understanding. So because TGFU is primarily about the understanding of the game, in other words, what is it you want your students to learn from this game? We give you some key sentences that you could use. Now, this is not necessarily the only sentences you could use or the only concepts you could use, but there's enough in each of the games for you to be able to, figure out what you want to do. There are 3 basic concepts within what we'll call the understanding component. And the first one is what I call the preloading. You teach them this game, so you set up the kids and say, okay, we're going to be playing Newbie today. Here's the instructions. Here's how the game works. This is what I want you to learn from the game. I want you to understand how you're going to get away from a defender. And you can even involve the students at this point and say, how would you get away from a defender? And they'll come up with answers about, we might run away at fast, we might dodge, we might, find the best positions, those type of things. So you can preload it. So before the game even starts, they know what you're looking for. They know what the understanding is in the game, either in terms of the strategies and tactics or the actual skills that you need them to use. You might be saying to them, we want to learn how to, change directions quickly when we're playing this game. All of those things can be done prior to actually playing the game. The second format that I quite often use with TGFU is what I call the teachable moment. So I don't tell them what I want them to learn out of the game. I teach them the game and I let them start playing the game. And then in that game, all of a sudden, a student does something that's either what you want them to do, or maybe it's something that's hindering the game or causing problems. So you blow the whistle or whatever it is you use to stop the game. And then you say, okay, this is what happened. Arjun did this and he changed direction very quickly in what he was doing. Why did he do that? How is it helping him in the game? And then you've taken that teachable moment. You've had them actually, demonstrate what it is you want them to learn. They've demonstrated it, and you've used it as a teachable moment. I don't like to use the negative components as well, as much as I do the positive things. But sometimes you get students that will do something not great. They might be playing a game where they do the wallflower technique, where they just go and stand against a wall and are not involved in the game at all. But again, it's a great point to stop the game and say, okay, Susie's over there standing against a wall. How can she become more involved in the game? How can she set herself up to not be tagged when she's just standing still? So it allows you to do those teachable things. And then the third and final one would be what I call the debrief. The debrief is where you, again, front load the game, allow them to play the game, and then say, okay, what have we learned? How do you successfully tag a player? And, that's when they will start talking about, they will move at a quicker speed. They will change directions. They will try to corner them. They will try and work together with other, there's so many different things that can happen in there in terms of, what you're going to do in terms of those questions for understanding. So then we get into the next section, which I was kind of supposed to talk about, was the, how do you get started with this? And basically they're divided into those areas. So our resources do not tell you this is how you should use it, this is how you should scaffold, because everyone teaches and plans their school year in a very different way. Some people may program their long range plans by sporting activities, for example. Somebody might say, okay, for the next 2 weeks, we're going to do soccer activities, and then we're going to move into gymnastics activities or whatever it is, and they gear their program according to a sports scenario. You might have other people that are going to gear their program based on skill. And it might be, okay, this week we're going to deal with, invasion territory games. And then we're going to move into net and wall games. And some people go as far as skills. We're going to talk about manipulating an object with another object. And then you look at the resources saying, okay, what fits into how I've created my program? And everyone does it differently. So it's not really there for you, but it is set up quite simply for you to use. Now, the other thing that's kind of interesting about this is in terms of getting started. One of the things we've been told that people really like about our resources is not the fact that it's easy just for you to use, but it's also easy for other people to use. We know as teachers that we are not always in our classroom. It might be because we're away on a professional development opportunity and we're gone for the day, or, sometimes illness happens and you're away for a day and you might not have had the time to set things up. Either way, we found that people can say, okay, I can leave for an occasional teacher, the person that's coming in to replace me for the day, the resource on TGFU Invasion Territory, and I can say play stones on page 6. And occasional teachers can even open this up, or it's already opened on your desk, whatever you want to do with it. And it's there for them to understand. Shows them how to play the game very easily. You don't have to rewrite all of this stuff in your day plans. It even talks about those questions for understanding so that you can move through those things however you would like it to do. The final thing is in terms of supports further learning opportunities, and where can you find more of this stuff? The page you're seeing now is just a list of all the resources that CIRA Ontario has written over the years. Our first resource is the second one there, called Active Playgrounds. That was written in our very first year when CIRA Ontario used to be a national board. It used to be CIRA National, and it was defunded by the provincial government, the national government, back when PHE Canada was still considered, had the term CAFED, and they said they wouldn't fund both. So CIRA Ontario wanted to stay alive, and they started producing books, and this Active Playgrounds was the first one. But we've got over 30 resources. Any Game for Any Brain, which is a resource dealing with students with cognitive impairments or disabilities. Simple books like Bang for Your Buck, which is playing games with dollar store materials. Circle Games, which is games all within the circle formation, counting on some fun. Dodgeball games, goes down to Extraordinary Games, which was one of the books I wrote that I have the most pride in, simply because it was it takes all of your traditional team games like soccer, football, ultimate, and it gives you fun variations on how to play all of those things. Very similar to a TGFU. Then there's just all kinds of stuff as you go through here. Teaching Groove for Understanding over here is, it was an extension of the TGFU series. Instead of, we kind of wrote this one after with a couple of ladies who owned a company called Groove. So Teaching Groove for Understanding is more about the dance portion of the physical education program, and it's how you can incorporate movement to music in that whole concept of understanding as well. Then you see all these different ones that are on there. So many different.
So Chris, just a quick question for you. Will teachers have access to all these resources as a part of the?
No. So
Okay.
they have access through what's coming. Sorry, I got to stop the sharing. They have access to the 6 TGFU resources that are coming. Those were the 6 ones that are purchased. But if they're interested in more, that's what CIRA Ontario has. They do have those opportunities. Our resources are also not expensive compared to a lot of resources. We're a non-for-profit organization, so we don't have a high price tag. All of our resources are $25 each, which is pretty reasonable considering what some other sites would charge for some of those things. We also have the ability for you to follow us through either our website, which I think has already been put up there, which is www.ciraontario.com. On there, you can see all of our resources. Each one of our resources also has about 2 or 3 pages of examples of what it would look like, so you can get an idea of whether or not it would be something that you would be interested in. We also have social media. I'm not sure how many of you have joined the social media world of professional development, but it's become huge. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. If you just look up CIRA Ontario, we are there, not just with the TGFU stuff, but for the most part, there is new games, new activities, new things put on by CIRA Ontario on a regular basis. We've been highlighted 3 times in the local television station on some of the activities that we do and stuff around here. So, there's lots of free stuff that you can get on our, by following us on social media as well. I'm just trying to look and see if there's any questions, and I don't see anything yet that I need to answer. I know in the last session, there was a few people that wondered if there was any French resources. We don't have a lot of French resources, to be honest. I think there's only 4 that are available in French, simply because we're a non-for-profit and we don't have the demand or the ability to, produce them. It costs us more to produce them than we actually would sell. So at this point, we've only got a few that are available in French.
Thanks, I appreciate that. And we don't have questions that I can see, so I'm going to give you one of my own while people think about their questions. Well, we've got Chris here. So this is the first time where we are combining the new curriculum into wellness and PE are now combined. So what are your thoughts around using TGFU and incorporating some of those wellness outcomes, social emotional learning?
Yeah, well, and I mean, the whole concept here too in Ontario is that that SEL learning is now, they're trying to incorporate that into everything that we do, and within the questions for understanding, this was developed before the SEL, the social emotional learning, became such a forefront. But those are the kind of questions that, again, a good teacher would be able to look at the resource and talk about those things. Some of those simple little things, and some of the biggest issues you have in physical education are the things like the students that, don't like phys ed simply because of the social concept of it. They don't fit in with others. They're not included by others. They're not accepted by others. And how can you take these smaller games and help that? And, that's one of the most obvious things right there just within itself. You play a game of 5-on-5 basketball as compared to you playing a 1-on-1 game of a shoot-around game. All of a sudden, they're getting their hands on the ball. They're touching those things. They're getting that. A total aside on that is, when I was a phys ed teacher, I did retire a couple of years ago, but the biggest concept I used within my programs was the separation of my fields. So for example, if I was playing an ultimate frisbee or an ultimate rubber chicken or an ultimate unit in general, I would always in a classroom set up at least 3 games. I would never play 1 game. It would be 3 games. And mine were always set up by not order of skill, but order of interest. So I called it competitive on one end. So the kids that wanted to win, that got upset when people dropped the ball or did something, they always went to the competitive field. The far end of the field for me, I always called the fun competitive. It was the students that they didn't care if they won or not. They didn't care if somebody dropped the object. They went to that field. And then, you know, if you have 3 fields, the one's a medium number of students that you have, you can separate that out. But all of a sudden, your students are in a scenario which allows them to enjoy the physical activity that they're doing. If you're on a fun competitive field and you're not, you know, the typical athlete, all of a sudden people are passing you the ball. You're getting to touch it. You drop it and people don't get mad at you. You become better at what you're doing. And to be honest, when it comes to assessment, they're actually doing better than they would in the normal scenario because they are getting the ball and they are getting the opportunity to improve. And then again, those students that are your typical athletes that get mad when people drop the ball, they're typically playing with people in that same, you know, mindset. So they're not, you know, one of the biggest things we do as phys ed teachers, especially in small classes, is, okay, you're the leader. You got to learn how to include that other student. That's a difficult thing for a high level athlete to do. So there are lots of opportunities to bring in that social emotional learning. I'm not sure if I answered your question. I just kind of went off.
Yeah, I love that tip. That was when I got Joyce Sonata, who is worked in our district for a while, is now a consultant outside. Gave me that tip, and that really worked beautifully within my own gym classes because it just takes all the pressure down and all the heat down. And yeah, I love you even had a resource, I think, that would address some of the financial literacy potential outcomes in there too that I saw with that from Sierra too, right? So yeah, no, that's excellent. I'm going to open up now. Does anyone have questions? You can put them in the chat or you can put your hand up and we will answer your questions now. We got Chris, who's a fantastic resource, so take the opportunity. I have a feeling Sandy Zoomless looks like she wants to say something.
No.
Oh no, Sandy does not want to. Sorry, I'm giving Sandy a hard time.
Very funny. Very funny.
The microphone came on, Sandy. I was just gonna check with you. So
the screen was flashing, so maybe, you know, her pet golden retriever was trying to say something.
All right, any other questions out there? Awesome. Well, we've got some amazing resources in the EPD site. These resources, like Chris said, are on their way. They're ordered, haven't arrived yet, so we are hoping to get them out to you as soon as possible. There's lots of online content, so check out the online content that was in the link that we sent as well. And then if you have questions, reach out to our consultants, right? We have some great consultants here in the district with Matt McDonald and Barb Duncan, who are here to help support you in as we incorporate these subjects and kind of move forward. So we'll stick around for another 5 minutes. In case anybody has questions, you can just stick around and ask them yourselves. Otherwise, we wish everyone a fantastic rest of your day and all the best as students start coming in the door tomorrow. Holy smokes, here we go, right?
Exciting times.